everybody, and welcome to today's video in which we are going to go ahead and model a bar chair. Namely, this is the chair that I want to create. I have three images of this chair. One is from the front, we have another one as sort of a perspective view, and a one from the side. Now here's the thing, when you're modeling something like this, you need to be mindful of one thing. When you're starting off from a technical sheet, you have an actual orthographic look to whatever it is that you're modeling. But when you're modeling off from an actual image, there's going to be some perspective distortion. So we're going to have to be mindful of this before we start modeling. All right, so I'm going to put this to the side. And if you take a look at my scene, you're going to see that I have one image for my side viewport and another one for my front viewport. Now both of these are not really put into size. I only put them in so the only thing that's important here is the actual aspect of the images. So for the size thing, we're gonna do this thing after everything is finished. So for now, let's start off from the left side. To start it off, I'm gonna go over here and choose a plane, and with this plane I'm going to create it like this. Make sure it's just one simple segment here, and I'm gonna go right click, convert it to an editable poly. Just so I can see better what's in the background, I'm going to while I have this plane selected, I'm going to hold down Alt and press X so it's see-through. So now I can move all of these polygons wherever it is that I need them. I want to put them to a position where it's going to come to the edge when it's about to start taking this curve. Select this thing, hold down Shift, pull it out where it's just once here, rotate this thing like so. At the moment, don't worry that we don't have this thing following this curve right. We will add in more geometry when we need it. So for now, we're only trying to get the rough form of this chair. So rotate this thing a bit like this, and then go ahead down to the bottom. All right, awesome. Now, what I want to do is go from the front viewport, move this thing to the side like so, and now move these so they're following the curve, the actual curve of this thing. All right, so get the top ones and move them in so they're about here. All right, awesome. This is going to help us get the edge here. So now let's, before I go in and actually add in more depth to this, what I want to do is I actually want to select this, turn on the snap. So I'm going to right click here. In the snaps, I have vertex on, and in the options here, I have enable axis constraints. This is going to allow me to, when I have this thing selected, by pressing the S, I'm going to toggle the snaps toggle. And now I can click on the Y and click on this vertex. That means this thing is going to be flush with that vertex. So I'm going to do the same thing with here on this side. Select both of these, and then the Y, make sure they're on par with this thing. So now everything is flush with these two vertices. All right, great. Now what I'll do is add in a bit more geometry here. The easiest way to do this would be to use the quick loop or the swift loop, which is found over here. So you can go over here, swift loop. You can assign a quick key for this. I have assigned one for me. And when you click on it, you have this green line following your mouse cursor. Now I want this thing to be in the middle. So instead of going in and clicking and then manually moving this thing wherever I need it, I'm going to go back. With the swift loop, I'm going to hold down Shift, and this thing is going to take that actual loop and put it in between the middle of those two edges here, the neighboring two edges. So I get something like this. All right, awesome. This is going to be okay for a start. I can probably get this thing to be a bit better here, but you get the idea. Now, once we have that, what we want to do is we want to add in a bit of depth to this. So that is going to be done by using the shell modifier. So I'm going to put in the shell modifier on the outer element. I'm going to put it so up until it's starting to get to a point where it's going to coincide with what I'm seeing here, which is what I want. Awesome. All right, let's turn it up and see what we have here. All right, great. Now on top of the shell, I'm going to put an edit poly. Select both of these polygons here, and now since we added in actual shell, it made this thing come to a bit of an angle. Want to fix this, so I'm going to go over here and make it planar on the y-axis here, and there we go. Now it's planar. All right, awesome. So now what we're going to do is we actually want to have this model with turbo smooth. And the problem here, if we had turbo smooth right now, is going to be that we don't have any supporting edges, and we're going to get a lot of mushy details. So before we do that, let's go in and actually add in a bit more of those details or the supporting edges. So what I'm going to do is go into the edit poly, or I can even add in another edit poly, which is going to control just where I have those supporting edges. So put one over here, like so. This is going to help with the bottom. One more over here. And now, what I can do here is I can either manually put in all of those edges that I need, or I can select these edges, I can loop them around, so it's selecting all of them, and I can chamfer them. By chamfering them, I'm actually going to have a more control on how much I want this thing to be rounded for. So I think this is going to be more than enough, like so. I can either use 2 segments or 1. If I put in 2, I want to get a sharper edge. I think with 2 it's going to be fine. The thing here is going to be that now since I have to fix this thing like so, I'm going to have to select those 2, connect them, select these 2, connect them, and then cut from here to there and from there to there. With this, we have to repeat the same thing on this side as well. So connect, connect, cut, cut. And now, if I turn on the turbo smooth, I'm actually going to get a very decent looking chair leg. If I increase the iterations, I'm going to get even better look, like so. All right, awesome. Now the only thing that I want to do is have this thing on the other side as well. So I can just mirror this on this side as well. I can make it as a geometry or a clone. There we go, like so. So now we basically have this leg and this leg. And as you can see, well, when I use the mirror, since I switched off from just a transform to a geometry, on this leg, it added in a mirror. So what this does is it basically makes it so that when I'm mirroring, this thing doesn't go into the negative. So here the offset is now not negative 100. Instead, that thing is being remedied by the mirror. Not a big issue, but sometimes it can save some additional work that needs to be done later on. All right, so once we have the legs, let's continue on with the rest of the chair. For creating the actual wooden part for the seat and the rest, we're going to start off with just a box. So let's start off with a simple box. Create something like this. and put a edit poly on top of it, like so. Great. I'm going to select just this polygon over here. I'm going to delete this one because I'm going to go ahead now, move these two into position. Again, I'm going to Alt X so I can see where exactly I want to have those. Now create the pull this thing to this side, pull this thing here, and this thing over there. And once I have the actual length of this chair, what I want to do is I want to take both of these two and move them more or less to the center of this chair, like so. All right. And here is where it gets not hard, but a bit tricky. You need to take into account the fact, like I said, this thing is not an orthographic look. You're gonna have some perspective distortions, and this perspective distortion is going to have to be taken into account when you're moving the geometry, like so. All right. Now let's go in and try to follow this curve a bit better. So with this thing selected, this is going to be the top here, I guess. And this thing's going to be on the bottom over here. Oh, nope. Let's make sure we don't move the wrong ones. So this is going to coincide with the top, and this is going to be the bottom here, like so. This thing here is going to be the back height, like so, and this thing is going to go a bit higher, like so. All right, now I want to add in a bit more geometry to it, and the way to do this is going to be the same thing with the Swift loop. I'm going to hold down Shift while I'm adding in these loops, and it's going to give me a bit of a weird result, so I'm going to go in Control Z, and I'm going to manually add in those loops. So once, like so, select the front portion here, move it downwards until it's following this line, like so, and for the back one as well, like that. All right, and let's see if this thing is gonna feel better this time around. Awesome. All right, we can work with this. Now let's simply move it so it coincides with what we're seeing on the side here, and this one. All right, we're getting to a point where it's starting to follow what we're seeing. Whoops. Okay. Control Z, like so. Awesome. All right. All right. So now I think we're at a point where we can just do a bit more of a tweak. So, okay, so these two need to go way down. These two need to go way down. And as you can see, it's very important when you're moving all of these to not get sidetracked so you don't see your model in different viewports, like so. All right, and add in a few more edges in the middle so you don't get sidetracked and you actually lose overview of how your model is looking like. Right, so like this is gonna be fine. I'm gonna need these things to go, or these vertices to go a bit downwards. There we go. So these go a bit down, like so. All right, awesome. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pivot only and move it to the side over here. So now when I put a symmetry on and flip it like so, I have this thing following the chair all around. I can probably now go in and do a bit of cleanup so we get a bit of a cleaner result. But more or less, now we have the base for our chair. Now, since we're using Turbo Smooth, what we want to do is go in and add in the supporting edges that are going to help the model hold its form once we apply Turbo Smooth like this. As it is right now, we have a nice form, but still we have to have some extra edges to help hold these edges here. So I'm going to turn off my Turbo Smooth, and on top of the symmetry modifier, I'm going to put on an edit poly modifier. Alright, so for this one, it's going to be fairly simple. All I got to do is go in with the Swift loop, add in a few loops, one up here, one down here. If you're looking for the Swift loop, it's the option is over here. There we go. So add in one loop at the bottom, one loop at the top. So this should help hold the form on the sides, but we can either leave it like this, which is going to create a bit of a problem since once we put on more iterations in the Turbo Smooth, we're going to get some jagginess at the edges. But in this case, we can either use it like this, but the thing here is that if we take a look at the reference image, we're going to see that these edges here are actually sharper. So in order to get that sharpness, we need to add in just a few more supporting edges on the corners. So one over here like so should help, one over here. Same thing goes on the other side as well. So one over there and one over here, like so. Right, now the distance from this edge to this edge is going to define how sharp that transition is going to be once we put it on the Turbo Smooth like this. So now we actually have our base for this thing. And I think this is good enough so we can continue work on the actual seat of the chair. Modeling the actual seat of the chair is not really that hard. We can either start with a fresh geometry for this thing, or we can reuse some of the geometry we already have. So in order to get started with something that I already have, I'm going to turn off the Turbo Smooth here. And here, with the edit poly selected, I'm going to select all of these polygons like this. Since this thing is going to be symmetrical on this side, I'm only going to model this side on here, and then symmetry it to the other side. So I don't have to do the job twice. So I'm going to detach this as a clone. And now I'm going to turn the Turbo Smooth back on and select the file that we just worked on. All right, now, first thing I can notice about this thing is that if I take a look at here on this side, I can actually see that I have a bit of a roundness or piping going all across. If I take a look to the perspective side, I can actually see that thing going all across. And in order to get that, I can probably just go and select the border here. So just so it's easier for me to see what's going on at the moment, I'm going to isolate this thing so you can see how this thing looks like as it is. So back to an isolation, and now I'm actually going to move this thing upwards just a tiny bit and select all of the edges except the ones in the middle because we're going to be using symmetry. And now what I want to do is hold on Shift and click down. So this is going to give me the height. Now the reason for doing this is that once we start using Turbo Smooth later on, we're going to control this piping with an extra edge. But before we do that, let's just add in the top layer of this thing. So I'm going to select again all of the polygons here. I'm going to use a small inset, like so, and move it upwards. This thing should go upwards up to a point where it's, I guess, up to here. And now just move it down so it's kind of following that line that we are seeing here for the chair, like so, and all the way down here, like so. All right, awesome. What we want to do next is select all of these polygons. Since we don't need them, we're going to delete them. All right, awesome. And let's go from the side and try to pull all of these into a position that we actually want to have them at, like so. There we go, like so. All right, awesome. Next thing we want to add is a few more edges here. These edges are going to help us refine that shape so it's a bit more normal looking and smoother. All right, so let's try and see if this thing is planar. So let's make it planar on the X, like so. And now put a symmetry, flip it around, and we have this seat. Now I can probably go in here and do a bit of work around this thing so I can get it to be more realistic, because as it is, it's a bit, well, it's a bit unruly and not really the shape that we're looking for. But before we start playing with the shape, I want to address the thing with the piping here. As we added in this extra edge, what I can do is go with the split loop, hold on Shift and click. This thing is going to add in one extra segment, which I can scale outwards, like so. There you go, like so. And this thing, if we turn on the turbo smooth now, is going to give me that piping. In order to get this thing to go down here, I'm going to add in one extra edge here, move it downwards. There you go. All right. What I'm doing is I'm actually toggling off the show end result button so I can actually see what's happening here. All right, so one more time. I guess I can take this thing and instead of making it so sharp, I can chamfer this, like so. Put in 2 maybe, or let's try it with 1 and 2. Yeah, I think 1 is going to be enough. There we go. Awesome. All right, so we have this thing going on here. And what I want to do is, again, just go in and slightly move these things around so we get a more all right, this actually is good enough for this, but in case we want to get this thing to look more like the cushion, we can go in and manually move some of these vertices around. Quickest way to get a bit more smoothness into this model would probably be just to go in, open up the paint deformation, hit on the relax, and now click on show end results. We can see how the end result looks like. I'm gonna actually go in here, turn on the show cage, like so, turn on end result. Awesome. So now when I go and hit relax, I can relax all of these vertices individually, like so. And since this is above the symmetry, it's not going to be actually symmetrical on both sides. So we're going to have some not symmetrical details, which is going to be kind of okay, since this is a seat. So it's not going to be even on both sides. So let's add in a bit more. So now we take a look at this thing, like so. We're going to get some nice results, like so. All right, so we have the seat and we have the base. Now what we want to do is we want to create the backrest and the back cushion as well. Creating the backside for this chair is not actually that hard. What we have to do is we're going to go in the front view. I'm going to create either a box or a plane. So let's go with a simple thing and create a plane. This plane should be about that size. Like I said previously, when you're modeling off of a reference image that's from images and not an actual text spec, expect to have some differences in the actual perspective. So take this with a grain of salt when you're creating this thing. So make it a bit smaller like so. Now we want to add in more geometry so it's following the actual size for this thing. All right, one more like this. One more over here, like so. There we go. And for this, I'm actually going to go in and put in one in the middle. One there and one there. There we go. Awesome. All right, now let's just put these in their position from the side. So what I'm going to do is select this thing, which is going to be the middle one, or the one that goes furthest back. But actually, before I do that, I'm going to go in the side here, put it here, and rotate it around till it's matching what we're seeing here. So I guess this line should be fine like that. All right, awesome. What I want to do is get here in this line, and now select all of these vertices in the middle and pull them all the way back till about there. Now try to follow this line so you either go back to this thing and align the front ones to this thing, which is going to later help us get the thickness, or just align it to this line and follow this thing here. I'm going to do exactly that, so I'm going to get all of these vertices and make them follow that line, like so. Select that one, move it back to about there, and move this one back as well to about there. So now we have this thing following that curvature, which is exactly what we want, and we want to have some thickness added to it, so adding a shell modifier. And that shell modifier is going to be, or the thickness for that shell modifier is going to be controlled here. So let's give it so it's about this thick. So now we have it going from there to there. Now the reason why this thing is a bit taller here is, like I said, when you have a different perspective view for your side and front, you're gonna have these small differences. So don't worry about that at the moment. All right, awesome. So now let's add in a symmetry modifier to this. So first affect the pivot, put it here so it snaps nice. Put a symmetry, flip it around, and increase the threshold so that these vertices in the background actually snap, like so. All right, awesome. So now if you put a turbo smooth on top of this, we're gonna have a bit of a problem there. So let's simply go in where we have the symmetry, add in a edit poly, which again is going to create a bit of a problem here, which I have no idea why it's doing this. So, oh, actually I do know why it's doing this. In the middle, we have this bit of a problem because I did not go here and in the shell, put it, edit poly, go in, delete all of these polygons. Now put on the symmetry and the turbo smooth, and this should fix it, like so. All right, so no more issue there. All right, so now we're back to seeing the same exact problem that we had previously. We need to add in more geometry here. And so let's try and do the thing that we did previously. So one edge over here and one edge over there. This thing is going to work nice like this. Let's see it from the front side. Yep, this can actually work just like this. Or if you want to hold the edge even better, you can add in one more edge. But in this case, if we go in and add in the edges like we did in the previous case, we're going to get a sharp line here. So if we basically go in and add in one edge here, here, and here, the problem we're going to face is that this thing is going to be very sharp. And here, as I can see, I have a sharp edge, but here it's more of a rounded look. So if I want to get around that issue, I'm going to Control Z back. And in the Edit Poly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this edge here, and this edge, and this edge, like so. All right, deselect these guys. So now with all of these selected, what I can do here is add in a connect, like so. Move it to wherever I need it. For example, if I want to, actually I'm going to add in two and pinch them to the side, like so. I don't need that one, so I'm going to reselect, Control backspace, delete those two. And now what I can do is I can go in and cut one from here to here. One from there to there. Do the same thing on the back side as well. So now this should actually help with holding this form better. Let's see. All right, awesome. Great. So I can use this and continue making the backrest as well. All right, so the actual backrest is going to be exactly the same approach as we did this one. So let's go ahead and first of all go in here in the symmetry modifier, put on an edit poly here, and I want to select the polygons that I want to be using here. Now in this case, I probably should take these guys like so. I'm actually going to go in and take, just get those, detach them out as a clone. Or actually, I'm going to go and get all of these because I want this thing to stretch all the way to the end. So detach as a clone. Put it on like that. Now go into this new one that we just created, and what I want to do is get rid of these lines here. Oh, I guess not these two. Control backspace, like that. All right, awesome. Again, just like we did previously, pull it outwards so we can get that outer edge here, so we can pull it inwards and get that piping working for us. I do want to get it so it's a bit scaled inwards, like so. All right, this is going to work. And now again, select everything here, inset, or you can bevel it straight out, but I'm going to actually inset first, like so, then move it outwards till about there, move it outwards like so. I don't need those polygons in the middle. Get those and make it planar on the X and snap it to about there. I think this is going to be the same. Yep, this is going to work just fine. Put a turbo smooth, check it out. Yeah, it works just fine. So we just need to add in that crease at the or the piping on the edges in order to get that piping. So I'm going to add in a bit more geometry here. So one there, and this thing is going to control the actual piping for this. So scale it outwards. Turn on. Yep, this works just fine. And before I do anything else, what I want to do here is, again, I'm going to put it, edit poly again here, so I can make this thing planar on the X and snap it back to there. All right, awesome. This should help us with the piping. And just so I can see it better, I'm going to actually change the color for this. Something like more of a blue color. So 2 iterations of this thing, and I get a much better, more pronounced edge here, but I think getting in 3 edges here is giving me a way too thick or way too sharp line. So I'm going to go in here and remove one of these guys. Yeah, so much less pronounced line there. So at the moment it's all just trying to get it to a point where it's not that sharp looking. And again, what I can do is go into the relax, try to soften it up a bit, like so. I can probably use a bit more geometry in here as well. Whoops. Let's try and not screw up with the actual line that's supposed to be going for the symmetry. So alright, so no more of this thing. Hit a symmetry modifier, flip it around, turbo smooth this thing, and voila, we have something that we can use as a backrest. Alright, awesome. So let's continue creating the rest of the model and then skip over to unwrapping this thing. Well, what I just noticed is that we've been going on for almost 40 minutes, so I guess we'll cut this video over here. And in the next one, like I said, we're going to continue with creating the rest of the elements for this chair, as well as doing the UVW unwrapping. So, hope you guys had fun and you managed to learn something new. If you do have any questions, leave them below. I will meet you in the comment section of the video. If you enjoyed this video, then please click the like button. And if you're not subscribed, now is a great time to do so. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.